people introduce you to another person, you should really shake hands at the same time. Always remember, when people introduce you, if you are in a sitting situation, sitting position, try to stand up and acknowledge the introduction. But if you are sitting in a very crowded space, it's not easy for you really to make this move, at least you should make a gesture, like try to just make the gesture you are standing and nod your head when you are being introduced. And Chinese people do pay attention to your outward expressions of modesty and of this politeness. And if you tend to sit there when people introduce you without all these nonverbal movements, I think the impression you are creating here is likely to be the one that people would consider you as a very proud person. Avoid it verbally by saying 你好 or 幸会 or 我很高兴见到你. And at the same time, non-verbally, by showing some modest, humble gesture like standing up from the sitting position, nod your head, and even say 谢谢. People tend to change the name card at the very beginning of their interaction. So they don't wait until afterwards. Before even you know their name, before even you finish your self-introduction, people are already busy trying to find a name card and give it to each other. So get prepared, get your name card ready when you are going to be introduced to your business relations at work. Another thing I think we really need to remember is that when people get introduced at this point, they tend to shake hands again, even though initially when you meet, you already have done the handshaking. And now, once you get introduced, you tend to shake hands with each other again. Another thing, well, the way we respond to an introduction, either of the other person or of yourself. So in Chinese, we normally say 幸会, 幸会. That means it's such an honor to meet you. It's a great honor to get to know you. 幸会, 幸会. Or if it is a person who is very important, you may also say 久仰大名. 久仰大名 means I've heard of your big famous name for a long time. So that's 久仰大名. Okay, so these are the things people use when they do introduction. It's also a way to open a conversation. It's like a conversation openers.
A number of differences between introducing other people in China and in the West. Probably one important aspect is what information you offer to the other person in terms of the person you are introducing.
Okay,
of course,
so information.
Information. Mr. or Mrs. Li or Mr. or Mrs. Shen is first of all very important, using Mr. or Mrs. Other important information would be their rank or their position in the company. If they have a high rank, for example, manager or director, it's very useful to offer this information in the introduction. Of course, the company that they're working for, and if they have some qualification, perhaps a PhD or some other high-ranking qualification, then it's always polite to offer this information as well in the introduction.
Wow, you've already got 3 points. First of all, we have to call people not strictly as not only by their name, especially last name. You should put a title like Mr.
Mr. or
Ms. Mr. or Ms. in front of their name, last name.
Certainly.
Okay, and also the position, the ranks they have.
Right. Titles are a lot more loosely applied to people than in the West. If for example, you have a manager title in the West, then you are managing people. You are managing a number of people, and you are important in the decision making in the company. But in China, very often people have a manager title, and without being actually a manager as such. They may have an important role, but they are not managing people or managing tasks as they would do in the West.
And I realize people have, I don't know from where, have started using teacher to a lot of the people who are not actually in the teaching position.
Yes.
For example, even the person working with the conference facilities section, and the younger people call those people who
老
are
师
older than 老师, teacher Zhang or teacher Liu.
Yes,
is a
I have
polite way.
observed this as well in the publishing
Uh-huh.
field as well,
Oh, you
education
do?
publishing. Yes,
I see.
The publishing house that we cooperate with, Macmillan, we cooperate with a local publisher, and the staff there are called Laoshe. Even
they
though they
call
may have not actually taught before, have no teaching experience, but because they work in the education field, they may have perhaps a high-ranking editor position or such like, they are also called Laoshe.
Well, in business, not everybody gets introduced. Only the people who are of importance or of significance or relevance to a particular situation get the introduction. And in other words, there are some people who are not the major players in any business situation. They may just get escaped. That means they may not be introduced to you at all. If that happens, don't hesitate, and yet don't go ahead and ask the name of the person yourself, because that may cause some embarrassment on the people who may not be meant to be introduced.
And this is important when you introduce other people, to keep in mind this hierarchy, in that the person who has the highest rank by position and by age as well are the first to be introduced. And then there is perhaps in descending order of rank it would occur. Perhaps the director may be first, and then the assistant director may be next, and moving down towards the lower ranking staff, you might say.
Okay, so moving from the high to the low in terms of the position. So hierarchy is one element we need to remember when we are introducing other people.
Certainly.
And also formality.
Formality.
So
certainly.
instead of going informal like what we do in Australia and in America and certain other parts of the world, people here tend to be formal.
They are a lot more formal.
They are more formal.
Introductions are an important or very symbolic thing in many
Very
ways,
symbolic,
and
yeah.
it should not simply be done quickly. It's a stage where the third person has the position or the responsibility to make the other two acquainted, and this position is very, very important in this relationship.
So we have to take it really seriously if you are in the position to introduce people to each other. So make it really serious and do it really carefully with all the cultural protocol.
Certainly.
Yeah, in your mind.
Certainly. Keep in mind the rank, keep in mind their position, and make sure this information is clearly told to the other people, because it may not come out later on as easily and clearly.
Okay, being modest, being cautious, being sensitive, and that will definitely give you the good opportunity to make a very good introduction and a good beginning in a relationship. Well, that's the end of this session. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Hello, my friends. I'm very happy to be back again today to talk about or to continue our Chinese Business Cultural series. And this session will look at something very practical. What is that? The name card handling, the business name card. And we'll start with how we really need to prepare it for the use in China.
One main thing I realize is that name cards are a very important thing to have and to use in China. In the West, people have name cards and they use them, but it's more important, more crucial to have them and to use them when introducing yourself in China.
Normally, when we are in the States or in other parts of the world, unless you travel, we only have one language in the name card. That is your own language. But before you come to China, make sure find someone who knows Chinese to give you a good translation of your name card content and print the Chinese version on the other side of the name card.
Translation of Western names into Chinese, it's an interesting issue. Your company, for example, for a start, if it's a well-known company, may already have an official Chinese translation. There is a wonderful dictionary, which is 2-volume dictionary, about 1,000 pages each volume, which is the official Chinese translations. So normally what they do is try to make something that sounds more or less the same.
Okay, yeah, kind of sound translation.
Sound translation, applying Chinese characters to the name so that it sounds similar. Of course, to a Western ear, the Chinese sound doesn't sound like the Western name very much, but for the Chinese, it's close enough for it to work.
Yeah.
And so some company names may be translated that way. But of course, that may not be a very effective marketing name. I mean,
So
it could
is
be
there
that the
any-
characters that they've used to make the sound right mean something not terribly good in Chinese.
And among the information you gave in the name card, don't forget to list the highest credentials you have, either for your professional or for your academic achievement. If you have a doctor, don't omit it at all. Just put Dr. 博士 on the name card in Chinese. And don't forget to put your status, your company status there in the name card either, like chairman or president, put them into there. And so that people know where the status and know how to decide the way they treat you, how to decide the way they talk to you. And also, there is a slight difference between the timing for the name card giving. And in many parts of the world that I have experienced with is that we don't always give name card unless we decide to continue the relationship, right? We normally give the name card after we finish our conversation, after our talk. And then we decide whether there is any interest, whether there is any need for us to continue the relationship. Unless we decide to continue, we give the name card, otherwise we go without it. But in China, things are very different. Name cards are exchanged at the very beginning of our conversation, of our interaction. And also in China, did you also notice, or have you noticed that people ask you for the name card at the very beginning
Yes.
of your conversation, of your contact, rather than leave it towards the end?
Yes.
So they don't really make the judgment first whether this is a contact I'm going to continue with, I'm going to have anything to do with in future. They just ask you the name card right away at the beginning.
I think that's true, yes. In China, people always ask for a card, and often you find yourself giving cards to people you're pretty confident you're never going to see or deal with again.
But still, you
need to give it just out of politeness.
It's almost
yeah.
like a handshake.
Yeah.
So as soon as we introduce each other, introduce ourselves, the next thing you do, take out the name card. So don't forget to always carry some name cards with you. So don't embarrass yourself by having to say, sorry, I don't have my name card with me. All right? Name card is very important. Why don't we have a handshake first?
Yes.
Hi, good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So now you have my name card.
Ah, thank you very much. Okay. Alan Baddington Smith. Thank you. 不客气. How to handle the name card physically? Just remember two things. Just now we talked about two languages, both languages. And here, when you handle the name card, don't forget both hands. Every time I go to the States, and if I attend any conferences, people just give me the name card like this. And I take it this way. No offense. That's the way we do it here in other many parts of the world. However, in China, if you ever give a name card like this, one hand, people would definitely feel very bad about it. Why? Because both hands is a note and still a current practice to give name cards in order to show that you respect them. So it's a sign of respect. You can never go very short on that.
Well, I think the important thing for somebody to remember, for a foreigner to remember, that if you are giving or receiving something important, you do it with both hands.
Both hands. Now, that's an important...
So it's not just a business card, but if you're presenting somebody with a book with the history of your company, for example, you would certainly give it with both hands.
So both hands.
Yes.
When you use both hands is a sign of showing respect.
Exactly.
And better remember to do that, not only with the name card you say, with any other things
Anything
when
else
you hand out anything.
Exactly.
Great to remember.
Yeah.
Good to remember. And also remember, even though it is convenient for you, do not take a pen and scribble on the name card you've just received. So to scribbling and to scribble on other people's name card is again a rude kind of conduct. So better use another separate piece of paper if you need to put down any information at all. And also with the name card, very often when I was in the States or in Europe, I see people, can I borrow yours?
Yes.
Very often when you give some other information, if I don't want to forget, I take out a pen and write right away in front of you on the name card I've just received. So do Chinese people prefer this to happen to their card?
No, I think probably you should do that somehow slightly more discreetly.
More
Yes,
discreet.
yes. I think because there's much more sense that if they're giving you their card, they're giving you themselves, and you don't sort of scribble things.
Don't
like
scribble
that.
that.
No.
I think the reason is that they don't scribble on your card when they receive it. I think it's another cultural thing here, I
Yes,
guess, right?
exactly.
It's a respect for the person whose name is printed
Absolutely,
there. So
absolutely.
we don't do that
Yeah,
easily.
don't sort of
But if you
deface.
if you don't really have any other place to write anything, and you really want to remember, what do we do here?
Well, you must be prepared and bring something else.
It's true.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know what, Alan, sometimes I'm really embarrassed because I don't really have anything to write on.
Right.
And I just ask, oh, I'm really sorry. Could I just write this important number onto your card? I guess when you apologize for it before you do this, it can be absolutely accepted. I don't think
Yes,
there's
probably
any offense
that's right.
made here.
But it's better to have
to write on
write
that.
something else.
Exactly. So talking about name card, now I hope we have a different way of looking at the name card handling in China. And remember both languages on your name card, and also remember both hands. If you remember these two both, I think you won't be too wrong in your name card handling. All right, now we can wrap up this session, and hope you get something out of this session as well, and hope to see you all again for the next session. We have a lot of interesting things to follow. Don't forget the time to come back again. Thank you again. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome back. And welcome back to this cultural series in doing business with China. And in today's session, I think we will be focusing on how Chinese people greet each other at work. I think we can really look at the daily situation when people meet each other for the first time, either in the morning or during the day. What do they do? If you work in the foreign joint venture companies or in the foreign companies in China, people do say good morning, good afternoon. But among the local Chinese people, the traditional group, people tend to say 早, just one word, also means morning. Or people say 来了. It's a recognition of your coming, saying, you're here now, so 来了. And sometimes you use it together with a name, 来了小张 or 来了老王. But very often you just say, hey, 来了, or just a simple nod of your head.
A lot of young people will say hi
Yeah.
or hello. They don't speak in Chinese at all.
Yeah.
Whether they're speaking to a foreigner or whether they're speaking to each other.
Yeah, it applies to saying 再见, right? Bye bye. And very few people saying in Chinese saying 再见. A lot of them saying just bye bye.
Even on the telephone.
On
They
the
often
telephone.
greet at the beginning and the end of the conversation in English. It's common.
There are several other ways we can greet each other after having seen each other for some time. And again, you can really do it in a very light-hearted, very humorous way. If someone comes in, you haven't seen him or her for a while, you can also say, instead of saying 你好, yeah, we do normally say, 回来了, you've come back. We can also say, wow, you look much